Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
No games played here. This is Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and stimulating talk. Thank you for spending your Sunday with us, folks. Really do appreciate it. All of you dedicated listeners out in Connecticut, Long Island, and Rhode Island, you are rocking with the best. Go to FreedomOnDeck.com and check out all our stuff right there. Our social media, our podcast, our archive shows from the FM dial. It's all there for you. And our final guest of today's program is Jayme Stevenson. Jayme is running for the lieutenant governor's job in Connecticut. As of last night, we endorsed her candidacy on all of our social media pages, and we're doing the same thing on the airwaves of WJJF right now. Welcome to the program, Jayme. How you doing?
I'm great, Chet. Thank you very much for having me, and I'm so grateful for your endorsement.
Well, we're located in Long Island. We stream it to New London, and that's all of southeastern Connecticut listening right now. But I have a lot of friends in Connecticut, and I think you're the right girl for the job. Now, Connecticut has its primary coming up on Tuesday. Jayme, is that a bad time to have a primary vote while everyone is out on vacation or not paying attention? What do you think?
You know, it certainly doesn't seem to be the ideal time, but what I'll tell you while I'm out on the campaign trail, people are really fired up. They're really paying attention. I've spent a lot of time out in eastern Connecticut the last couple of weeks, and people are very engaged, and I know that they're going to be eager to go to the polls on Tuesday and help hire a new team to turn things around in Hartford.
Excellent. Now, many people may not understand what the role is of the lieutenant governor. Can you tell our listeners what the job entails, Jayme?
Absolutely. So there are two constitutional responsibilities for the lieutenant governor. You preside over the Senate, and in the case that we have right now, where there are 18 members who are Republican and 18 who are Democrat, the lieutenant governor breaks the tie. So we are, of course, hoping and working very hard to get our Republican colleagues elected in the House and the Senate so that we have a Republican majority in the Senate. But if it happens, the lieutenant governor, I would be responsible for breaking tie votes. So it's so critically important that you have somebody in the role of lieutenant governor that really understands legislation and not just understanding the words on a page, but how does it affect the everyday people in Connecticut, both positively and negatively? And that's why I'm the best person to help Republicans win in November, because I know how to do that.
Now, after reading up on your life experiences, it left me wondering, why did you decide to run at this point in time? Why are you running, Jayme?
Sure. Thank you very much for asking that question. So I have served as the first selectman in the town of Darien for 8 years. I've been on the board for 10 years in total, and I've seen a real disintegration between the relationship of state and local governments. You know, that it's not uncommon that would happen when the state's in such fiscal disarray. You know, they're trying to target certain towns, take away their education funding, take away the money to help fix roads and bridges.
Yep.
And that's no way to run a state. It's no way to work with your local cities and towns who really try to do the right thing for the people that they serve. So that's why I'm in this race. I have the leadership skills and the experience to be a great team player. I'm the only candidate in the lieutenant governor's race that has both public sector and private sector experience and statewide leadership roles. So I'm ready to help the team win in November.
Excellent. We have candidate for Lieutenant Governor of Connecticut, Jayme Stevenson, on the line with us. Now, Jayme, this is a three-way race. What makes you the best candidate?
Great. So I have two opponents. I have Mayor Erin Stewart, who is the mayor of New Britain, young mayor. She is very liberal in her policies and has, you know, her stump speech is that she's turned a deficit into, a bonus. And I've been able to read her financial statements, and the numbers just don't add up. She has added debt well into the future, 20 years into the future for her town. She's tried to fix the problem by raising taxes, and it's the same playbook that Dan Malloy and this current administration has done in Hartford is what she's doing in New Britain. The people of New Britain don't realize that between 10 and 20 years from now, those debts are going to come due, and it's going to be a very difficult situation for the folks there. And on the other side of me, literally, I have Senator Joe Markley, who is a very fringe ideologue who his only job is to be a member of the Senate. He's never worked in the private sector. And I think that the risk with Senator Markley, I respect that he is in public service, but he can't win in November. Republicans have such a small number of percentage of votes in Connecticut, and he's just too ideological, too fringe to actually be able to help the Republican tickets win. As a matter of fact, I think he's going to sink the ticket in November. So, I'm right there in between both with life experience and professional experience. I'm really the right candidate to help the ticket win in November.
Okay, Jayme, so I know who Erin Stewart is. She's always on the morning show here on the station. She's been on quite a bit. She's hardly a Republican. I know that, besides her raising taxes and bonding New Britain's debt into the future, just like Dana Malloy. I don't think it's a big stretch to say she would continue Connecticut down the same path. She starts out running for the mayor, then as almost an afterthought decides to run for governor, and when that's not working out, she flops down to lieutenant governor the day before the convention. She's made New Britain a mess, obviously, as you just said. How can Republicans take her seriously?
I think she has demonstrated time and time again her, disconnected, sort of self-driven political climb. She was on her board of education for 2 years before she ran for mayor. And, New Britain has one of the worst funded education systems in the state of Connecticut. So I think she's young. I think that with a little bit more time, if she really wants to be a public servant and she can help turn things around in New Britain, their mill rate is nearly at an all-time high. And even the rating agencies are concerned about one-time revenue gimmicks. And the debt explosion that's going to happen by the year 2021. So, she's just not the right person right now to help turn around Connecticut. The problems are too big. We're not playing at government here. We need experienced, mature people to be on the team to make the hard decisions that are going to be needed in order to fix the crisis that we're in.
But, Jayme, and we have Jayme Stevenson, candidate for lieutenant governor, on with us in Connecticut. Erin Stewart is distorting her record, and in New Britain, the voters need to know that she's not only a fiscal train wreck, but Britain's schools are a disaster, as you said, and in the midst, this is the most offensive thing to me, in the midst of this opioid crisis, she wants to legalize marijuana. Now, what else doesn't Erin Stewart want voters to know?
That's a real difficult one for me. I am the only candidate from top to bottom in any race that has from day one made the opioid crisis and a couple other issues, which I'd love to talk about, as my signature issues, the things that I have experienced to address. And I know there's a lot of talk about legalizing marijuana. First of all, we shouldn't be legalizing marijuana as looking at it as simply a revenue source. There are a lot of people who there's 9% of the people that use marijuana who, for them, it ends up being a gateway drug. Mm-hmm. I'm not willing to risk those people just for the sake of $1 to help the fiscal crisis in Connecticut. We have a spending problem in Connecticut, and we can't keep looking for all these crazy revenue sources. So, I have too many friends that have children or know people that have died from the opioid crisis. So, legalizing marijuana at this point in time for me really cannot be the answer.
Now let's talk about your other opponent, Senator Lone Vote Joe Markley. He's avoided debating you. You've put the challenge out multiple times. And I know this. He called you a hysterical woman for just asking him to debate the issues. Jayme, I have to say, after reading about his votes against equal pay for women and against the affirmative consent bill protecting young women from sexual assault on these college campuses, I can understand people labeling it as a war on women. He's going to sink the ticket in November if he wins, and I feel he's unelectable. And what the hell is he thinking, making a statement like that about you when all you asked for was a simple debate?
Yeah, there's so much here, Chet. I'm a mother of 5. 4 of my children are girls. They're all adults now. They're all in college or out of college, and I can tell you firsthand that the problems on college campuses really do exist. And, if the colleges and universities aren't going to address it themselves, then government needs to step in at least a little bit to help make sure that our kids are safe. And, his no vote against the affirmative consent bill, the lone no vote, and then again his lone no vote against pay equity for women, calling me hysterical for asking for debates. Listen, the governors have debated probably about, 100 times.
Yeah, way too much.
and thankfully, because I called for debates, we ended up having one. I wanted to have 3. Still wish we could have another one. The voters have not had a good opportunity to hear the 3 of us. And to call me hysterical for asking for public debate, he's building a really interesting record for himself, being very, very chauvinistic and against women in general. I feel very confident that if I were a man, they wouldn't have called me hysterical. So, people need to know that about him. That's part of his ideology, and that's what he'll bring to his leadership position. And I think that's a non-starter for the people of Connecticut.
And looking into Markley's background, it appears to be just another career politician. You kind of got into this. He's never really held a real job or run anything, even anything to the private sector. That's a huge problem if he needs to step in as governor, isn't it?
It is a huge problem. Most people believe that the best governors are, have had at least a little bit experience either running a big business or running a municipality, and he's had none of that. My job every day as first selectman is to try and understand those laws that they make up in Hartford and then figure out how to try and pay for them. If you haven't had some of that experience of managing people, of managing budgets, how in the world can you manage a $20 billion business like the state of Connecticut? But on the flip side too, Erin Stewart, although she's young, she is also a career politician. She's known nothing else other than being in government and politics. So I am the only person in this race that has public and private sector experience, demonstrated leadership experience, fiscally disciplined, and that's why I'm the right person to help the Republicans win in November.
I think the other two would be a disaster. And also, I've seen the debate going on Facebook and some of the other social media outlets out there about your campaign ad, which exposed what Joe Markley has done with this affirmative consent bill and voting no on it. But guess what? If you think it's bad with that ad, Jayme, can you imagine what the Democrats are going to do when he's running as lieutenant governor?
Absolutely. They're already building their case against him. There's no question about that. They've actually said it in the media. It will be a disaster for Republicans. This is our time. We must win in November. I feel like this is our last chance, our last opportunity to really turn things around for the state of Connecticut. We have to bring Republican ideals and fiscal conservatism with people who understand how to do that and how to manage to Hartford. Joe's the wrong guy, and I know that I'm the right person to help the ticket win. I
think you're right. It is the time. It's just, to compare it and contrast it to the election of Donald Trump. The country had to elect Donald Trump in order to turn the country around, and I believe that you're the right candidate for this job. and I think you're going to do a fantastic job. Now, I know for me, raising a family, it's given me more life experience and about knowing what's important than anything else that I've ever done. I have 3 kids, and we have to make sure that they have a great future, Jayme, although I live in Long Island, not Connecticut. Now, neither of your opponents have raised kids yet and just don't have that perspective. You have 5 adult children. What advantage does that give you, Jayme?
Tremendous advantage. Listen, first of all, helping families in Connecticut is one of the reasons why I'm in this race. Being a wife, first of all, I'm married to my husband, John, for 31 years. Raising our 5 children in public schools in Connecticut, we've weathered the ups and downs of family life, challenges with our kids, taking care of our aging parents while they get sick and then when they passed on. There's just things that life teaches you that you can't know until you go through it. And it, without a doubt, has made me a better, more compassionate leader, understanding, really how life works, and teaching my kids about how life works is no easy task either. So, absolutely, family life isn't for everybody, but for us, it's pivotal. We think family is everything, and so I'm really hoping that I can help the families of Connecticut to help the economy turn around so families can be stronger and thrive.
Now, Jayme, you're going to come back with us, and we're just going to discuss a bit about your background so the voters can get a little more used to you. You're going to stick around with us?
Absolutely. I'd love to.
Awesome. Everybody, candidate for Lieutenant Governor of Connecticut, Jayme Stevenson, is with us. Come on back to Freedom on Deck. Oh, welcome back to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. We're continuing our interview with the candidate for Lieutenant Governor of Connecticut, Miss Jayme Stevenson. Jayme, thanks for staying on the line with us.
Thanks very much, Chet.
So we've heard about your race and your opponents. Let's turn this to you, Jayme. Where did you grow up, and what was life like for you and your family?
Yeah, great. Thanks for asking. I grew up in Reading, Pennsylvania. It was a textile and steel town. My dad worked for an ad agency and then the steel company. Had one brother. We were the first to go to college in our family, which was such a great thing for us. My parents gave up everything for us, basically mortgaged their future to send my brother and I to college. Lucky for him, he got a commission to the Air Force Academy and served his entire career in the military, in the Air Force. He flew F-15s at first and then went into training systems. So very proud of him. And like my father and all of his brothers who were also in the military, we actually lost one of my uncles in World War II. So we have a very strong military and patriotic family. Reading was a great place to grow up, very, very, I would say, very working class. But I got a great public education at the school that I went to, and education was everything. It gave me my opportunities. And it was important to my parents that we had that educational opportunity. And from that, that was a springboard for me to go to college. I went to school in Reading, Pennsylvania for 2 years, then transferred to Arizona State University, where I graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business and Communication. And then I went to work for Standard & Poor's Corporation as a bond analyst in their new asset finance department at the time. And by the time I left there as a vice president. And the great thing about having that in my background is that I really understand financials. I understand credit worthiness. I understand how important it is to have, for municipalities to have a good credit rating. It makes borrowing cheaper and costs taxpayers less. So I draw every day from my background at Standard & Poor's.
And Jayme, for me as a conservative, this is just something I want to ask you. How is faith in your life? Is God a big part of the household, the Stevenson household?
I think I'll be really honest in that regard. I raised all of my children in church here in Darien. I'm a very spiritual person. I'd like to be able to tell you I get to church every Sunday. I don't, but I certainly count on my deep faith to get me through every day. And the older I get, the more I live my life, the more importance I put on that part of my life. And I really hope to instill that in my kids as they're growing and beginning to raise their families. We became grandparents in December, and that's all really hitting home for me, how important having a faith base really is.
That's really great, and I feel the same way you do. I should get to church more, but God's a big part of my life, and I think that's excellent. Everything in your background just really hits home for me. I'm proud to support you. Everything in your life up to now seems like a perfect fit for you to be Connecticut's next lieutenant governor. Your opponents are absolutely deeply flawed, and you are the only candidate that's qualified for the job. I think you're ready to step in a moment's notice to lead. You add greatly to helping Republican win the governor's seat, and I think that's the most important thing, Jayme, that you offer is you don't have a bunch of holes like Swiss cheese like these other candidates do. And I'm proud to support you, and I want to thank you for coming on. We here at Freedom on Deck endorse your candidacy and hope all the listeners get out to support Jayme Stevenson for Lieutenant Governor. And Jayme, before you go, please give out the website where everyone can go and check you out and give you support.
Thank you, Chet. It's Stevenson4ct.com, the number 4. Stevenson4ct.com. I have so many more things I'd love to talk to you about, but I know our time is up. I'm so grateful for your endorsement. Thank you very much.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you're Lieutenant Governor, you owe me another date on the show, okay?
Fabulous. I really look forward to that.
Okay, everybody, that was candidate for Lieutenant Governor of Connecticut, Jayme Stevenson, and we're sure that when she gets elected, not if, when she gets elected, she'll be back here on Freedom on Deck. Everybody have a fantastic Sunday. Thank you for coming by and spending your Sunday with us. It's always an honor. Same Freedom time, same Freedom station. Next week, 3 to 5. This is FOD. Good day.